Welcome in, everybody, to the Flagship podcast recap of a 51-3 waxing of the ULM Warhawks by the number one ranked Texas Longhorns. Here to talk about it, I am Chip Brown of Horns247.com, joined by my esteemed colleague and proud Tampa Catholic graduate, the one and only Eric Henry. Eric, Texas gets Arch Manning as the starting quarterback this week because Quinn Ewers is recovering from an oblique strain. And we saw some ups and downs. We saw what we probably expected to see last week, quite honestly. Last week, Arch Manning was a Marvel superhero. Coming into the game against UTSA, throwing for a touchdown pass on his first play and then running for a 67-yard touchdown run on his third play and made it look so easy. 9 of 12 for 4 touchdowns and no picks. Tonight, Eric, it was an interception to start the game and an interception to close the first half. But in between, some beautiful deep balls, some very, very high highs and, a couple low lows. Arch Manning gave himself a C+, Eric. What say you?
Well, first off, Chip, let me go ahead and set the stage. I did not just dress up to upstage my esteemed, illustrious co-host. For once, we are doing this both.
Because I am fashion challenged.
For once, we are doing this both from our homes. So I just left DKR. Chip has been home for a while, so just setting the stage.
Well, I left DKR too. I mean,
Well, you left DKR too, but I'm trying to give you cut you a little slack here, right? Give you my guy a little slack. No, in regards to Arch Manning, right? I think there are a couple factors in play. One, when you're coming off of the bench cold, it can be, in terms of a quarterback, right, it can be a disadvantage in the sense that you're not prepared or whatnot. It can also be an advantage in that the other team didn't prepare for you, right? And I think this is a case, and I'm not saying that ULM by any means is a team that certainly down the road when Arch Manning isn't making his first career start, he'll have no issues, faring against, right? But let's remember, first career start for the kid. I don't care if you're Arch Manning or whoever. It's your first career start. Chip, I don't know if you caught this during the game, the broadcast feed. They showed the Manning family history and their legacy of first starts, right? They talked about Eli throwing 5 touchdowns in his first start against Murray State, but also Peyton went like 7 of 14 against Washington State, right? So it goes to show you're a first-time starting quarterback, the collegiate level. The other team was preparing for you. There are some things that go taken into account, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing, now I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I want to leave you some room, to set the table as we do this instant reaction. But I hope that tonight's game, and it was a great game for Texas, right? Jaden Blue, 4 touchdowns. Defense looks lights out. A lot of great positives. But for the national folks, I'm not talking about the folks in Austin, the national folks. Does this give you
the national folks who you chided this week, saying Quinn Ewers deserved better?
Does this give you enough of a reason to appreciate what a third-year starting quarterback brings to the table, Chip?
Exactly.
I would hope that tonight does. Arch Manning is going to be a fantastic quarterback for the Longhorns. I have no doubt about that. But tonight should have provided, in my mind, a real reinforcing of the value of experience at the quarterback position, Chip.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have sort of been talking about this all week, that you cannot get swept away and be a prisoner of the second, the moment, as it pertained to Arch Manning's awesome debut last week, where he completes 9 of 12 passes, throws for 4 touchdowns, no picks, and disregard the 3 years of experience, the road ups and downs that Quinn Ewers has developed calluses from. losing on the road at Oklahoma State, 19 of 49, 3 interceptions in 2022, bouncing back and now winning 8 straight true road games, including wins at Alabama and at Michigan. I think it is probably the most salient point of tonight. I mean, Arch Manning he had highs and lows. Lows to start the game. And I mean, he literally started the game with an interception and ended the first half with an interception. In between, there were some really beautiful deep balls. Like, I'm sure a lot of fans were saying, wow, Arch Manning, he throws the deep ball better than Quinn Ewers. He might. I mean, the guy's been feathering some deep ball passes. Now, he did miss Jaden Blue on a wheel route that would have been a 69-yard touchdown. I'm sure he's kicking himself for that, because that's a pass that Arch Manning has shown he can make and did make throughout the game. But, there was another deep ball pass to Isaiah Bond, another deep ball pass to Ryan Wingo. His string of explosive plays in 4 straight games now. Matt Golden with another, I think, a 46-yard catch. So Arch Manning did some really good things in this game. And then this is what you expect from a redshirt freshman. To me, this is more the norm. And maybe he got a little greedy, Eric, because he is such a good deep ball thrower. Maybe he did get a little greedy on that first interception. Should have thrown it away or taken the check down. Instead, he tries to throw as he's getting hit. Ball's up there, hanging, gets picked. So I think the Jaden Blue aspect of this and the offensive line, Eric, to me, the offensive line looked the best they've looked from a run game standpoint. They ran it 52 times, 239 yards rushing. Jaden Blue becomes the first 100-yard rusher of the season, as you mentioned. He rushes for 3 touchdowns, catches another one, counts for 4. Jarrett Gibson had a touchdown run. Ryan Niblett had a touchdown run. Heck, backup quarterback Trey Owens was in about 12:53 of the fourth quarter and brought it home once again. I'd have to imagine 77 players probably played in this game, Eric, because there were a couple of holdouts. Obviously, Quinn Ewers was held out. So was Derek Williams, the sophomore safety. So he's got a hammy. And, Quinn Ewers, we'll wait and see. Do they need him to play against Mississippi State next week? Probably not. Mississippi State lost again at home after losing to Toledo and getting blown out. They got lit up by the Florida Gators in Starkville. They are 1-3, 0-1 in SEC play. And if you're just tuning in, the SEC announced tonight that the Texas Mississippi State game will kick at 3:15 next Saturday on the SEC network. So 3:15 Central Time, it'll be Texas and Mississippi State at DKR for the Longhorns SEC opener, Eric.
Yeah, Chip, I want to touch on a couple of the points you made there really quick, just kind of putting a cap on Arch Manning, right? You talk about the deep ball, and I didn't get a chance to say this to you in the press box, but I thought it is two things can be true. Arch Manning may throw a better deep ball than Quinn Ewers. Clearly, beautiful deep ball. And when that thing is on, it is money, right? And I'll say it again, and Chip, there wasn't a deep ball that was completed tonight that I felt that Quinn Ewers couldn't have hit. So let's just put that in perspective. In terms of Jaden Blue, I think we talked about it on the Flagship. It was really something I wanted to see. Texas get their first 100-yard rusher. Again, first world problems, right? It's not like the run game hadn't performed well and performed timely, right? In the 3 wins prior, Jarrett Gibson most notably, coming through it when needed. What impressed me is, and we didn't get a chance to ask Steve Sarkisian about it, but didn't see Trey Wisner. And Trey was dressed. He was dressed, had fully dressed. Went through warmups. Didn't see him tonight. This was a heavy dosage of Jaden Blue. And I'd be curious to hear from Steve whether, A, that was on purpose, because when I asked Jaden Blue post game, his face lit up. Chip, I think you may have been speaking to Jake Majors at the time, but his face lit up when he said, "Yeah, man, I was really happy to get 20 plus carries. Like, just as a back, you want to know you can carry that load, right?" I'm sure as much as Jaden Blue and during camp CJ Baxter were talking about, yeah, we want to split reps. Like, of course, as a back, especially Jaden been banged up, you want to go out there and show you can tote the rock 20 plus times and be that bell cow, right? So I thought that was important. Just, that type of performance, 4 touchdowns, just goes to show, hey, come SEC play, this is a guy that you can depend on. The offensive line, segue into that aspect, phenomenal performance tonight. Again, sure, it was ULM, and no one's going to confuse ULM for a dominant, defensive front. But guess what? Texas did that to Michigan. So it's not like this is something that they're doing it against ULM, doing it against Colorado State. No, they did it against Michigan. It's putting together this string of performances, Chip. That's what's encouraging to me, whether it's the offensive line play, the defense I know we'll talk about in a little bit, but putting together this string of performances that says, hey, this is not a one-time thing. This is not when, PK and Sark and Johnny Nance and others harp on us, we can go out and do it. No, it's setting the new standard, right? How many times have we heard that? The standard is the standard, setting a new norm. I'm loving what I'm seeing from the offensive line, loving what I'm seeing from the defense. Chip, it is not easy to hold a team to 3 points. I don't care who it is. The fact that this defense has only allowed 10 points through four contests, that to me is encouraging. So those were some major takeaways, at least just, kind of going off of what you said for me so far tonight, Chip.
Yeah, and Quintravion Wisner, I'm hearing, a little bit of a hamstring issue, so they wanted to protect him, not aggravate it. So, yeah, honestly, Eric, and I'll get to the defense here in a second because there were a lot of standouts on that defense tonight. This is sort of the perfect scenario. Not that Quinn Ewers is dinged, but it's not serious. He's going to be fine. I said last week, I've heard he wants to be back for Mississippi State. He probably could be and should be, but they could also hold him. If they want to just be doubly sure, because after the Mississippi State game, they will have an off week and then face OU on October 12th. Defensively, man, there's a lot to be excited about because not only was Anthony Hill, setting the tone early, he had what should have been a pick 6. My man Trey Moore, he jumps right in front of Anthony Hill and decks a ULM defender in the back on the 3-yard line when Hill was going to cut back and go into the end zone. Like, Trey Moore could have just stood there. So Anthony Hill doesn't get the pick 6. We have to wait for him to get a sack to get those pelvic thrusts. But he got his first sack of the season. He had another, tackle for loss. He was everywhere. And then Lianga Lafau. Like, Lianga Lafau has turned into a big-time playmaker. He posts a sack last week against UTSA. He posts another sack, and he gets a safety. And another tackle for loss. Lianga Lafau is feeling it. Like, we talk all the time, you got to make plays to get that confidence, to prove you can make plays at this level. And Lianga Lafau's now stringing them together, Eric. And that just gives, I think, peace of mind to the defensive coaches, because at the beginning of the year, you were like, gosh, Anthony Hill's the most indispensable player. Like, they could not survive without him. And now you've got Lianga Lafau, which frees up Anthony Hill a little bit, gives him some rest at least. And of course, David Benda plays the middle and weak side linebacker. But you're seeing a steady dose of plays being made by Lianga Lafau. I think that's really big. And then, Ethan Burks making some plays, Colton Vossick's making some plays. Javion Cole had an interception. So we know, we've come to expect that Jahdae Barron's going to make a play. Andrew Makuba, Michael Taft with the hit of the night tonight. He had 5 tackles. They called targeting initially, but it was just a great hit from Michael Taft. pass breakups from Manny Muhammad, Gavin Holmes. Like, we expect those guys to get it done. But when you're getting production from guys like, Burke and Vasic and Leonga Lafau, you keep adding to the mix. This team's getting better, Eric, and that's what you want. That's the sign of a well-coached team. Week to week improvement. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Chip. No, I mean, I'll kind of try to be quick here. But in terms of, I laughed because you talked about Benda, and I actually passed Benda on the way out. I was heading back up to the press box. Benda was walking in, and I kind of gave him a dap, and he was like, "Hey, you see Lafau out there?" And kind of both chuckled and said, "Yeah." So that is what elicited the laugh from me. Really quick, I
Benda said, "Did you see Lafau out there?"
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah. Wrote about Anthony Hill, for tonight's game, and the fact he's just emerging as a playmaker, and you knew he was a playmaker off the edge, but double-digit tackles last week, I believe it was. Sacks, still tied for team lead in sacks, second on the team in TFLs. But now we saw the hands, right? That, to me, impressive that he's continuing to make plays. And Steve Sarkisian said that his attitude, his personality, his kind of just, hey, I'm going to go out there and just be me, that's rubbing off on the defense. And Sark said that's a good thing. That's very impressive. You talk about Leonga Lafau. Again, I won't belabor the point too much, but the fact that he's developing, he could be a guy. He's actually leading this team in tackles for loss. Maybe later on down the road, he steps into the starting lineup. Who knows, right? But this entire linebacking core, Chip, Ty Anthony Smith, Hurricane,
Hurricane,
right? He's making plays. So you have to feel really encouraged about that. And as Steve Sarkisian said, he feels that the depth across his defensive line. I think you got to give Sark and company credit. They knew, and I don't want to bash anybody, but what they had post-spring wasn't going to cut it. And they went out and got a Bill Norton and a Jermaine Lole. And now you have 5 guys at defensive tackle. Now Alex January is emerging, right? You have 5-6 guys at defensive tackle. They're getting the job done, and that depth at edge as well. Colton Vasic, stepping there, making some plays at the end. Ethan Burke making plays. The list goes on, right? So just plenty of reasons to feel encouraged about this defense.
Yeah. I mean, you hold a team. Look, ULM was 2-0. I get it. They beat Jackson State and they beat UAB, but they're a well-coached team. Honestly, their defense was pretty tough. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but they had a couple, pass breakups. They had a couple picks. They just ran into a buzzsaw. And, this was a ULM defense that was only giving up 10 points per game in their first 2 games. And, Texas just dominated both sides of the ball. The Texas defense holds ULM to 2 of 12 on third down, holds ULM to a total of 111 yards total offense. Like, that is fantastic. And held ULM to 2.3 yards per carry. So when you force 2 turnovers, hold a team to 2 of 12 on third down, hold them to 111 yards of total offense,
which is the fewest, as we got confirmation, the fewest in, I believe, a decade since the 2014 season opener. So just for note,
fewest in a decade. And you get you force 2 turnovers and you also get a safety. That's just dominant play. And there were so many big plays on third down. Lafau's sack came on third down. It was huge because it was in the red zone. And it ended a 13-play drive. It was ULM's longest drive of the night. And it forced a 35-yard field goal. And those were the only points in the game. So just this defense they're getting better. And that's what you want to see. This offense got better because Arch Manning got some experience. He's pissed. He was pissed. His teammates said he came off the field. He was really upset with himself after the first interception. And Jake Majors said, "Hey, man, you're fine. You be you." And Arch said after the game, "I gotta take what's there. Can't force it." He was forcing it. He had success down the field. He wanted to see if he could get some more success down the field. The good news is he made a terrible decision on the first interception, and he came back and threw all those beautiful deep balls. The second interception was a little spicy. That pass was kind of a rocket. Jaden Blue was in traffic. It hit Jaden Blue's hands. We can, debate whether it was a drop or poor decision, but I just thought that this was a really good learning experience for Arch Manning. And I think Longhorn Nation realizes, there are the freshman mistakes from the freshmen, the redshirt freshmen. So value Quinn Ewers' experience and those wins on the road, because you're going to need them here, and you're going to need him on the field against Oklahoma and Georgia. Eric, any final thoughts? Oh, and Michael Kern. How about a round of applause for Michael Kern? 2 punts, averaged 45.5 yards, both of them down inside the 20, one of them down inside the 10. So your guy from Fort Lauderdale, St. Thomas Aquinas, the great state of Florida, showing up with that leg.
Yeah, Chip, just the final thoughts for me is, as this team goes into SEC play, I'll be honest, folks, like I don't think you can be any more impressed with this team. When you look at it in totality, you lose 2 backs preseason. You lose a quarterback, right? The way this team has stepped up, you're seeing the team that Steve Sarkisian wanted to build from day one. And I just, like I said, I can't be more impressed. Chip, we've talked about it. In terms of things we want to see or whatever, it'd be nitpicking. And that's a phenomenal place to be at as a program, when you're nitpicking those little things and saying like, we should have a 100-yard rusher, or I wish we could do this. Or no, like it's been in my mind, couldn't have asked for a better 4-game start. 4-game, as Sark called it, preseason, right? Non-conference. And now SEC play begins.
Yeah. And shout out to another Austin guy, Trojan man, Austin Anderson's Colin Page. Come on. 10 carries, 60 yards tonight for the Trojan man from Austin Anderson, who had a great fall camp. He's the scout team running back extraordinaire. And he's a walk-on who grinds. He's averaging more than almost 5.5 yards per carry. So little shout out there for the walk-on from Austin, Colin Page. All right, listen, read Eric Henry's story about Anthony Hill. Read my snap judgments and helmet stickers from tonight's 51-3 rout by the number 1 ranked Texas Longhorns. And thanks for listening to the Flagship podcast recap of Texas's 51-3 win over ULM. Please like and subscribe to this Horns 24/7 YouTube channel so that you get notifications and never miss an episode of hanging out with me and Eric Henry. Are you kidding me? I mean, and make sure you're reading our Take Two columns on Tuesday, because we extend this fun banter from the Flagship podcast right into that Take Two column. So, Eric, great job, my man. For Eric Henry, I am Chip Brown. Until next time, we'll see you over at horns247.com, where you need to be an annual member so you can be reading all the VIP content on all the team sites. Like, get over to Inside Carolina tonight, because there's conflicting reports about whether Mac Brown is still going to be the coach of the Tar Heels on Monday. Yeah, so sign up right now if you're not an annual member, because, you become an annual member of horns247.com. You get VIP access to all the team sites on the preeminent 24/7 sports network. All right. Thanks, everybody. Till next time, stay safe and keep the faith.